Greetings!
So the last time I tried to work with Google Earth data in Blender, the process was kind of complicated. You had to use a graphics debugger that hooked into a Google Chrome tab that was running Google Maps, and then you would kind of pull the data out that way. It worked, but at the time I was just wondering why no one had just built something straight into Blender itself. Come to find out later that it was most likely because Google didn't have a public, fully supported way of doing this. RenderDoc was kind of the workaround for that. But in 2023, it looks like Google did finally offer a public, legitimate, fully supported API endpoint that you could use to get the data instead. However, it seems like since Google has introduced this API, anyone who had written a workflow for this sort of thing just kind of adopted their external software to use it instead of RenderDoc. And I was wondering why not just write something that doesn't require external software at all. So that's where I'm going to introduce what I'm calling Earth Tools. It's a Blender extension for doing just that. Brings the entire process natively into Blender without any external software dependencies. That being said, there is one external dependency in this case, and that is an API key for Google's Map Tiles API. The key itself is free to obtain, however, it does require a billing-enabled Google account. Instructions on how you can get one are linked down in the description. This API, at least at the time of recording, has a monthly free tier that is capped by a set number of requests, where if you stay underneath it, you won't incur any charge. I'm going to refrain from naming any specific numbers in this particular case, as I can't guarantee that Google won't change any of this information 5 minutes from now. I implore you to, on your own, check their pricing documentation for more information. But to give you some extremely rough figures about the kind of traffic that the extension generates, during my development and heavy testing of the extension, I was routinely exceeding 40,000, 50,000, even 60,000 requests per day. I would expect simpler projects to do a fraction of that. The extension's core functionality right now is pretty simple. You can fetch tiles and you can upgrade tiles that you've already fetched to a higher detail level. Detail levels themselves range from overview, which is the lowest possible geometry count, all the way to maximum, which is the highest that Google returns. Tiles are fetched with a latitude, longitude, and radius that you define using an OpenStreetMap interface. You can either click a central point and define a radius that way, or draw a bounding box around the region that you want to capture. Behind the scenes, the extension reaches out to the API, downloads all the files, and merges them on 8 worker threads to try to keep things relatively snappy. And after that, we do sort of a streaming import of all the merged tiles so we don't block Blender's main thread for minutes at a time. As a result, overall performance for low, medium, and overview detail levels is pretty snappy. High and max detail levels do suffer a bit from a noticeable degradation in performance, but it's something that I'm hoping to optimize and address in future releases. As a form of rudimentary benchmarking, I took the same 1 kilometer scene of Times Square and ran it 4 times, one for each of the main detail levels. During each one, I tracked 4 key areas: traversal time, streaming time, finalization time, and then total time. Traversal time effectively measures the time that it took to hit Google's API, get data back, traverse it, compile a list of files to download, and then download them. Import time is, as the name suggests, the time spent importing the actual geometry into Blender after it was all acquired. Finalization time is the time spent joining all the tiles together after the import had finished, and total time is just the sum total time of the entire process. You can see for low and medium detail levels that the entire process is generally pretty quick, usually only a couple seconds. High and max detail level is where you can see that the stream time becomes the bottleneck, and like I said, that's something that I'm hoping to address later. I have suspicions that it's either because Blender is single-threaded, or it's related to Blender's memory management / garbage collection / bookkeeping, but I don't have any definitive proof of anything yet. So while the extension itself is in what I would consider to be 1.0.0 release state, there are a couple of caveats that I did want to call out. The first one is unfortunately completely out of my control, and that is the quality and even recency of photogrammetry data that you will get from Google's API. If you're trying to fetch tiles for a region of the world where Google just hasn't done any photogrammetry yet, the most that you're going to get back is just regular 3D elevation data instead. And in some cases, it's actually possible to get older photogrammetry data than the same photogrammetry data you would get in the Google Earth web browser or desktop client. It seems like in some cases, Google gatekeeps the newer, higher quality photogrammetry data to internal only APIs, and the rest of the data goes to the public API. And unfortunately, try as you might, manipulate the API endpoint all you want, but it doesn't seem like you can somehow influence the API to give you that newer data back. The second one, which I am actively working on trying to find a solution for, is the behavior of upgraded tiles and neighboring tiles that have not been upgraded. Tiles that you select to upgrade are done so in place, meaning that the lower detail version is replaced outright by the higher detail one. During that upgrade, if any new geometry spills out beyond the extents of the original tile, the new higher quality geometry is going to be overlaid on top of older, lower detail geometry that was already there. I haven't found a super sophisticated solution for this yet, so I opted for something non-destructive. All detail levels are grouped together in named collections, so if you wanted to hide lower detail geometry that is now getting overlapped by higher detail geometry, it's easy to find it and do so. The third is another thing that I'm trying to find a clever solution for. Each tile imports with a pretty unwieldy amount of materials, and after the import is all finished and everything is joined together, you have a huge number of materials in the scene. I'm not sure that this alone is enough to cause any one particular user a problem. However, this is something that I feel like would be nice to clean up, so it's something that I'm trying to investigate. That is essentially it for EarthTools version 1.0.0. During my development and testing, I did my best to find absolutely every single bug that I could find and fix it. However, I make no guarantees that I got every single one of them. If you happen to come across something during your use, please let me know and I will do my absolute best to help you out. Information on where to find and get EarthTools is down in the description, and I'll be posting video updates to this channel as I continue to develop and fix things. Until then, thanks for checking out the release video for EarthTools, and if this extension looks cool, let me know down in the comments.